Hey guys, it's Masques Block, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Mercadian Masques. That's right, I've been hearing, well, I guess for a long time, it's kind of been this sort of meme that Masques Block is bad or Masques Block is underpowered, and I think that's just silly. That's just silly. So I was just annoyed by it. I was like, this is not true. This isn't true at all. This is totally dumb. I was like, what the heck? Do people not even look at the set? Do you not play with these cards? That's okay. It's a little bit more of a nuanced take than that because I'm a genius and of course I have galaxy brain takes. So let's talk a little bit about Mercadian Masques Block. All right, so first things first, we've got a lot of silly mechanics in this set, and so they're all over the place in power level, and whether they're good or bad, whether they're fun or unfun, it's a little silly. It's all over the place. I mean, it's like you got some things like mercenaries didn't work out, and other mechanics that did. So that's okay. There was no actual like named mechanics in the set, but there were some like sort of unofficial mechanics. And Mass Block famously came after Urza's Block, which was like so broken, like rivaled even ABU Alpha Beta Unlimited for probably the most broken set ever. I mean, ABU is sort of like insane, but like Saga Block is just totally even more ridiculous. So it's hard to really say which one's more ridiculous. But anyways, yeah, when you say, oh, my block favorably compares to the set that had Black Lotus, Soul Ring, and Moxen, Lightning Bolt, Wheel of Fortune. I mean, balance, like all sorts of insanity. That's probably tells you something's a little not right. So saying that Mass Block is worse or powered down than Urza's Block is, I mean, sure, water is wet. Like, I mean, it's not even like a statement that's even worth saying. Like every single block in the game is going to be powered down from Urza's Saga Block, or we are fucked. Like that is one of those things that's like this will destroy the game because we've created like a really like binary coin flippy format. Like that is not good. That is very, very bad. Even though we've had a lot of issues in standard in the last few years where they can't seem to figure out how to make cards like balanced, like they just push stuff too much or they don't have the right answers. I mean, this whole like not having the correct answers keeps coming back ad nauseum over and over and over again. But this is more of a problem with something like current standard, and it's a little bit of a digression from what we're talking about here. But Mass is less powerful than Saga Block, of course, but it isn't bad. It has very wide disparity in power level between cards. There are some that are like absolutely broken, format defining, totally busted, ubiquitous stuff that's all over the place. Um, and you have stuff like Avatar of Rage and stuff like that. So yeah, so it's got a little bit of an issue with well, let's just get into it. Let's just talk about the cards themselves. All right, let's start off with some good ones. All right, so one of the quote unquote mechanics that Mass Block had was free spells, all sorts of different ways to play your spells for free. So I mean, I don't even know if there's a more broken mechanic in the game than just being able to play spells for free. Even stuff that's like fair, even stuff that's say like look at Force Will, perhaps the no, it is the most important card in Eternal formats, and the only reason why Vintage and Legacy are even like remotely playable as a format is due to Force of Will and the dominance of blue decks. Because you can't just put Force of Will into any deck, obviously. So Force Will is the most powerful, most important card, even though it costs you a life and a card, even though it's card disadvantage, it still stops you from dying. It protects your plays. Obviously, gives you a lot of tempo. Um, So free spells are massively influential, even just random stuff. I mean, sure, like obviously, I mean, first up we have Gush. I mean, I don't even know if like when you have a draw spell that's like, ooh, this is actually kind of compares favorably to Ancestral Recall, you probably fucked up. You probably fucked up somewhere. Gush, absolutely insane. I mean, even with decks that didn't have any dual lands, that just played islands, it was still very good. I mean, obviously created the monster of a deck of Miracle Grow, which is totally insane. Um, and of course, Land Grant played a big part of that too. Be able to fix your mana, another free spell, that kind of thing. It was just totally. I mean, this card basically produces mana, or in the vintage decks that played Gush, if you played like Fast Bond or whatever the Gush Bond engine, I mean, you would be like draw two cards for free, add two mana to your mana pool. Like, I mean, this is bonkers, right? So Ancestral's one mana, three cards. This is zero mana plus two cards. So I mean, tons of decks have abused it. They've even unrestricted the card multiple times, like, oh, maybe it's okay now. People really like playing with Gush, and it just has to keep getting restricted every time because the card is just fundamentally insane. It's totally obscene with original dual lands. I mean, you can't even say enough good things about this card. It's bonkers. It has great art. It's a freaking common. I love commons. I mean, it looks like inspiration, but it's actually a lot better. But I mean, I guess there's probably not much more I need to say about Gush, right? It's Gush. The card's insane. And then we have stuff that's a little bit more balanced. Obviously, Unmask, this is really great. This is awesome. And Necro decks back in the day was played in pretty much everywhere it's legal. Again, it's still played in, say, the Black Red Reanimator decks. It's very, very good. Because, well, you could just draw cards off your Gristlebrand, and even if you tapped out, you can like discard them or exile them anyways to unmask that were going to be discarded. Very very strong. You could target yourself with unmask. You can unmask them and then therapy them on the third turn. Really great. What a great powerful card. Mostly balanced. Pulverize, again, this is a sideboard card. It's seen tons and tons of play all over the place against like the wildfire decks or affinity decks, any of the tinker decks, the some of the like TES, the Burning Wish storm decks in Legacy will oftentimes play a pulverize to wish for. This is great. It's free, so it builds storm count, even kills all chalices and all sorts of nasty stuff. Land Grant I mentioned, again, saw play in Miracle Grow, obviously very good, and Stompy as well. Those old decks. And of course, I shouldn't forget, still sees play in Legacy in the Belcher decks or the Arclight Phoenix decks, like the red, black, green ones will play it because it's free spell, gets you your land, which is great, and adds to the number of spells to play for say like a turn one like Arclight Phoenixes, you like land grant into your Bayou into like Writ into Buried Alive, and then blam, look at these Phoenixes. Reverent Mantra was again one that was always played in the Rebel decks, which we'll get to later. Obviously, it's a little bit more balanced. This is a pretty sweet card. Definitely really, really blowouty, which I loved. I'm a big fan of blowouts. So this card really balanced, but I mean, even this card, which is just like, meh. I mean, you can still get people with it, like in Commander and stuff. But I tried not to put too many cards on this list. I'm like, oh, look at this card. It's really, really good in Commander. I mean, that's a pretty low bar. So I tend to go for like really higher played Commander cards or something like that. Um, you know, versus like just any random card. I'm like, well, this one random legendary card, so I'll play Commander, like whatever, right? That doesn't really mean a lot. But yeah, Mass had a lot of free spells. Oh wait, there's actually more free spells. Jesus. All right, so now we got Snuff Out. Again, sees random play. Typically in currently, I should say, it sees play in the Death Shadow decks in Legacy. Going back in time gives you a lot of really good cards that let you do stuff for free. And this is sweet. You just kill whatever you want for free for nothing. It's awesome. And of course, you lose a bunch of life, which is great. Um, and oh well, I guess it's all played in other like Suicide Black decks and stuff. Crash. This is another card that sees play in a lot of the older formats, like in the again, the Burning Wish TES Storm decks. It's free, kills artifacts. What more do you want? Cave-In, again, pretty sweet. Saw a lot of play back in the day. I'm trying to think if this sees play in Belcher still. I haven't checked. But it's seen sporadic like sideboard play. But it's an okay card. Misdirection, this one still sees play again occasionally in Legacy. If there was like again, it just kind of depends on the amount of targeted spells. So if there were like more handed Taurox or whatever, obviously Misdirection is very very good against that. Or something like Sinkhole if Sinkhole wasn't like so sort of fringy. In Vintage, of course, Misdirection is a lot better because you just the mere existence of Ancestral Recall means Misdirection has a really good target. And Invigorate, of course, last but certainly not least, is well, it's good in Infect. This card's really really good in Infect and produces a lot of easy turn 2 wins. So yeah, because just Invigorate, Berserk, and then bleh, they're dead. Easy peasy. So yeah, even just these kind of randomish sort of effects, random cards when they're free, are just absolutely amazing in the decks that they're good in. Absolutely bonkers. You know, not everything can be Gush, but not everything has to be. Thank God, right? Well, I'll drink to that. Friggin' caffeine drinky thing. It's got ginger in it. I like ginger. That's good stuff. All right, let's keep going. Oh, you thought it was just one set full of free spells. Boy, there's 2 sets full of free spells. And, oh wow, look at this. Another broken blue free spell. Unbelievable. Here we have Daze. Perhaps one of the most frustrating cards to play against. Absolutely format defining. Definitely makes it so, like, I mean, oh god. I mean, how many people just, like, how many times have people just misplayed or played way slower just due to the threat of Daze? It's just unbelievable. This card is totally frustrating to play with, totally annoying. I mean, like that's pretty much my face when I have to play against this card. It's just like it's obnoxious, but yeah, I think there's a lot of cell phones, you know, when people are playing against Daze. Yeah, this card's bonkers. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what else more do you have to say? Again, it's part of the aggro control sort of shell, and you know, like for example, with like Forest and Daze and Brainstorm and Ponder and all that good stuff. Of course, now we have Submerge, again, a staple since forever in a lot of these aggro control decks because it's so good against these green decks that play big dorky dudes and it's literally free. I mean, that's awesome. Mog Salvage, scenes random sideboard play, but again, free, was very good against the Tinker decks. Massacre, again, still sees a ton of play, really great against Death and Taxes, absolutely brutal against them. And it's really easy to cast because you can cast it through Athalia pretty easily because it's free. Love it. Reverent Silence still sees a ton of play, most of the time a lot in the Black-Red Reanimator decks and Legacy, or just any deck that can, you know, has Force or whatever, and wants to kill a bunch of Leylines of the Void. So there you go. Can't lose. Can't lose. So yeah, I mean, there's just these spells again. Obviously, some are a lot better than others. Mog Salvage, I don't think has seen play for not a lot of play, not recently at least, but is a good card and has seen play in the past. Okay, so now we got this crap. So this is one of those mechanics that was very very powerful, but absolutely boring to play against because it's it's not only is it a tutor, it's a tutor on a stick, and they tutor up more tutors on a stick, and it's just like it's stupid. It's totally stupid. And so, unlike mercenaries, which can only chain down, rebels could chain up. So that's what made Rebosian Sergeant like one of the best one drops for these decks. You just play that on turn one under counter spells, and then you just start chaining up and not having to cast anything. And of course, this made it easy to like play a bunch of counter spells, so you can play counter rebels, that kind of good stuff. But yeah, this is pretty ridiculous. So you could chain up Rebosian Sergeant into all these dorks. You know, you had your Jovial Queen, which was like your big beater at the end of the chain. Stuff like Ramosian Sky Marshal, which is a good flyer, which you know, we could obviously fetch Jovial Queen. Random like utility stuff like Show Mano, or Thermal Glider, Nightwind Glider, those kind of dudes to like against red and black decks and things like that. So there's all sorts of things you can do with Rebels. But yeah, it really boring. Every game played out the same. This caused like a lot of cards like Lin Civi to get banned in block. Um, Absolutely, well, it's just stupid. Just stupid. I mean, it's not fun. There's the power levels there, but yeah, this is definitely like, again, a lot of the good cards in this set are also miserable to play against. For anyone really. I mean, I like a lot of this stuff because I'm like, oh yeah, sweet. My games play out the same. This is great. Or oh man, I'm making my opponent miserable. You know, so that's fun for me. I don't know, but yeah. So again, another case of one of these mechanics that's like really good but played out horribly, caused a lot of issues, especially under the old legend rule. And that, of course, was due to one card. That's right, Lin Civi. So they printed a bunch of these other rebels and Nemesis, and they were obnoxious. Obviously, Lin Civi causing a lot of problems, especially under the old legend rule, where if you got yours down first, people couldn't play theirs, and so it was just very coin flippy, and it exacerbated the issue of like basically your chain being undisruptible because it could put other copies of your level rebels from your graveyard above your library, just ensuring you can keep the chain going. And we added another good 2-drop and Defiant Falcon, so Ramosian Sergeant to Defiant Falcon into Lin Civi. Um, yeah, it's just ridiculous. And Defiant Vanguard was an important card against the a lot of fire stacks, because being able to block big creatures and kill them was very very nice. Not always the most effective card against them, but it was a weapon, so that was pretty sweet. But yeah, again, more rebels, more very powerful stuff. Made block constructed totally miserable. Civi got banned eventually. Um, there was other decks. There was like Skies, which was I think was like a block deck, and then also like a Type 2 deck as well. Um, but yeah. So this is a big part of Masques Block, and this is I think emblematic of the set itself, where it's like a lot of the really really powerful cards really slowed the game down, made it really boring. So it's sort of like the mirror image of like Urza's Block, where Urza's Block was broken because of all the super fast like turn one kill decks and just broken stuff like Yawgmoth's Will and all that other crap, Yog's Bargain. Um, Whereas Masques Block slowed everything down, but it was also really broken because the cards were like just absolutely soul grindingly unfun, while also the power level just being through the roof. So, yeah, that's that's Rebels. Yay? It's fine. I kind of like them. All right, Nemesis actually had a mechanic, and this is called fading. And actually, at first glance, it kind of looks bad, but actually, all these cards were pretty ridiculous. Like Blastoderm, for example, is just totally blew my mind because like even back then, like around Masques Block especially, like they were getting better creatures and stuff, but you didn't really have anything that was statted like this. A 4 mana 5/5 with Shroud. And yeah, it had Fading 3, but this thing was going to kill like 3 different things before it died. Um, or it was going to deal 15 damage and they couldn't do anything about it. Of course, Blastoderm, like our friend Sapling Burst over there, paired really well with a card from Invasion called Fires of Yavimaya, sort of breaking the whole fading thing, because they were balanced around the fading mechanic, but it gave all these creatures haste, so then it was just like, oh, this random deck can do like turn 4 kills, but it plays like a bunch of 4 and 5 mana cards. Totally weird, but that's how it worked out. Sapling Burst, of course, saw play in the Panda Burst decks, and then of course the aforementioned Fires decks as well. This card was actually kind of all over the place. Blastoderm saw play in tons of different decks, notably Fires, but in older formats. Um, it was just a good top end because it was very hard to interact with, couldn't plow it, that kind of thing. Tanglewire, again, another thing that doesn't let your opponent play Magic, and it's not really symmetrical because you can remove a counter and you can tap the Tanglewire itself. If you're playing it in like a Stacks deck, you just be like, oh, I guess I'll move a counter, tap it, tap my Smokestack, and tap my Sphere Resistance or something. Like, absolutely brutal, absolutely soul-suckingly brutal. And then you just play a card and it's like, oh my god, everything's amazing. Just life is perfect, nothing's wrong, you love it, you're playing mono brown, everything's great. Tangle Wire, absolutely fun. This card's great with Goblin Welder. And then we have stuff like Parallax Tide and Parallax Wave. These were just cards that could be played on their own by themselves. They also were, again, good in the Opalescence style decks. And you could just do tricks with like Opalescence, and you target like, the Parallax Wave with itself and exile it, and then the other stuff would stay. I mean, you just do really obnoxious stuff. Yeah, so these cards, like, pretty much all found ways to break them where it didn't matter that they had fading, so their effects were just totally nuts. Like a one-sided Armageddon or one-sided Wrath of God. It's okay, sure, gotcha. Not the kind of the funniest mechanic, because it's like definitely a very spiky mechanic. Or it's not like a Tibby mechanic, like, oh, look at this, I don't know, I'll lose my card eventually. That seems bad, but oh well. So yeah, fading itself actually turned out to be really powerful too. Really fun. But hey, I always like playing like Pant Burst. That's kind of, I think it was called Blackjack, the deck, because it was like you do 21 damage, something like that. Was that it? Ah well. Anyways, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Yeah, so this is the other theme, or something, mechanic. I mean, this is even all the cards that, nuked your lands. I mean, there's obviously like Stone Rain and Tectonic Break, I believe. The red X spell. I mean, again, the aforementioned Tangle Wire, of course, Rising Waters, which created its own deck in like block and standard. Dust Bowl, which was basically kind of like a wasteland, but you could play it typically in like more mid-range decks. They give you like multiple wastelands, which is great if you needed out to something like manlands, multiple manlands, and it could act as like, say, in something like the Rock, you actually had all these like random dorks, like Llanowar Elves and Birds in Paradise, so you can start chucking your lands to like constrict your opponents on mana, which is pretty good, because then it stopped them from playing spells, and then you could like get more cards with your Duress and Therapy would get more awesome cards, which is great. And then, of course, Rishadenport. I don't think I need to say anything about Rishadenport. I believe this card was also banned in Masques Block. I mean, card is miserable. It was ubiquitous in Standard. Every deck played 4. Brutal card to play against. Absolutely unfun. I mean, definitely choked off your opponent from being able to really make relevant actions. Very good with like birds and elves and stuff, because you can still play your stuff and still tap their lands. Again, he's playing like the lands deck and Legacy. It's part of basically every Vial deck. It's a big part of basically the Wasteland Vial. Rishadenport sort of pillar / core / build around kind of thing. Yeah, Rishadenport's pretty great, pretty powerful. I mean, awesome with cards like Thalia, Cabana Screw people, which is great. Everyone likes that. I mean, this card compares pretty well to Wasteland, because like Wasteland, if like they have like a basic or whatever, and obviously you can't Wasteland that, but you can port it during their upkeep, so you can still get their mana scroll, so you can still waste the random non-basic and then port their basic and stuff. So it really makes a more complete mana denial package. And Tangle Wire, I mean, what the hell are you gonna say? This is played in all sorts of decks to make people miserable forever and ever, and I'll keep doing it forever and ever, and I love it. So that's cool. Oh, and how could I forget? There was a whole bunch of really good reprints. I mean, these by themselves are kind of insane. So we had Dark Ritual, of course. This is the last set that Dark Ritual was printed in. It's also the only old bordered foil off the top of my head. Yeah, pretty good. And of course, Rebecca Gwei art, which I love. Good stuff. Counterspell. It's Counterspell. This card's amazing. Energy Flux, which was a pretty good sideboard card, or was, against all sorts of nasty artifact decks. You can Enlighten Tutor, which is pretty nice. Stone Rain. Stone Rain is, well, Stone Rain. Apparently this is too good. We don't want people to play Stone Rain anymore, so only 4 mana bad Stone Rain effects. So Stone Rain, again, this average power level, but obviously a good card. And of course Brainstorm. I don't really need to say about much about one of the best draw spells ever printed. I'm sure there's enough words out there. I'm sure most people are aware. Whereas something like Gush, with most people haven't played except maybe even Pauper recently. So yeah, Gush is insane. Anyways, bunch of good reprints. Can you believe it? This set has a lot of really good cards. Well, not so many good cards. So there are some good cards, but for example, we have the Spell Shapers. And the only one I can think of that actually still sees play and was actually really, really good and saw a lot of play in the past was Waterfront Bouncer. Waterfront Bouncer, this card was awesome because it was great against the Oath decks, great against the Reanimator decks, like Benzo and whatnot. It was awesome. Still very good. It's actually a Merfolk Spell Shaper, I believe. I've never seen a Merfolk so ripped in my life. That dude is jacked. He's on some like Merfolk BGH or something. I don't know. So yeah, like the one thing, like a lot of the creatures in Masques Block are garbage, like really bad, like undercosted, like for the effects and ugh. I mean, there's some stuff that's kind of good, like Hunted Wumpus or whatever, which you can kind of build around and stuff. But a lot of them are just really bad. But Waterfront Bounce is very good. That's a sweet card. Saw some play. I can't remember if it's seen any play recently, but it's a very good card. Probably the only good spell shaper. Then you have like these like sort of tutor rechain guys like they tutored for like non-rebel cards. So this is a rebel that tutored for elves. So this card's seen play in the past. Mog Catcher, which has seen play recently in Legacy and some like the uh, Ancient Tomb mono red decks, kind of like a Goblin Stompy thing. And gosh, was there another one? Red, green. I could have swore there was another one. I know. Well, that's okay. Anyways, accumulated knowledge again saw tons of play in the past with intuition. Still see some play in like miracles today. Again, very good card, very awesome draw engine. Although it's a little wonky in the mirror, so that kind of interesting tension. The Sapphires and Scary depletion counter land guys. Things like, I know Sandstone Needle still sees play in some decks, some of the mono red, like ramp decks in Legacy, and then also I've actually saw Hickory Thicket, the green depletion land recently in a deck. I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been like a Lurin or something. Pretty sweet there. Again, these seen a lot of play in the past. Pretty powerful cards. I can't imagine they'd ever reprint something like these just because they're so abusable. Um, and then, of course, all the Seal Cycle. Again, all those cards are very good. Have seen random amounts of play, although maybe the black ones probably never really saw that much play. Seal of Doom, which was just dark banishing. Seal of Fire, pretty good, which, well, it's just a shock. Seal of Cleansing, of course, very good, which is a disenchant. Seal of Strength, a little wonky. Saw play in Stompy, which is just a giant growth. And then the blue Seal of Removal, again, saw a lot of play against a lot of these decks with like big stupid dorks or whatever, where you could just, seal it back to their hand, which is pretty sweet. So all the seals are actually pretty strong. Actually, I haven't saw a ton of play recently, I don't believe, but definitely pretty good cards. And there's even more good stuff. Some of this is a little like, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, a little bit weaker, some not. Obviously, Food Chain, again, this was broken in the Food Chain Goblin combo deck, and then of course in Legacy with like Mist Hollow Griffin. Uh, Obviously, Food Chain's a little bit, you can't really play it in Food Chain Goblins in Legacy because it's no Recruiter, which was the big part that made Food Chain really good, allowed you to combo off. But it's then again still pretty sweet card, always looking to be broken, especially with the way they're printing powerful creatures these days. Then we have Squee. Squee, I mean, shoot, like, well, I mean, Squee's awesome. This guy's seen tons and tons of play, like in some decks that want to like abuse Forbid, or just want to use like Zombie Infestation, or again, well, in a lot of times in like Survival of the Fittest decks, they'll always play one or two Squee. It's very good with Bazaar Baghdad, which has been abused in the past, and of course still. Um, yeah, I mean it's hard to say like. I mean, it's been all over the place. It even is like a decent blocker randomly. Speaking of decent blocker, we got Nether Spirit. Again, this card is pretty much, it was in a Type 2 deck, Nether Go. Um, which, well, just basically play Nether Spirit as the only win condition. Watch out for that Scorching Lava. That's right. Um, and then also, it's a staple in basically every pox style decks plays the rack, because you can discard it to pox or smallpox and still get value out of it, and it just keeps coming back ad nauseum. And so it's a great one of in those decks. And it just got reprinted in Modern Horizons, which is great, with sweet art, which I love, which I think actually kind of compares pretty favorably to the old art, which I love. I wish Modern Horizons just had all those old sweet old cards and just reprinted into Modern. I think that'd be better than like printing broken 2-mana planeswalkers and like main deck engineer plagues and stuff. But anyways, I digress. Nether Spirit, still pretty good card. Definitely a lot more niche. Bribery, this card was pretty sweet. It's actually reprinted in 8th edition, which saw a lot of play there because it was good against, if you're playing blue, it was good against the Tron decks. You could just bribery out their thing before they were able to, like, tooth and nail you or whatever. Again, a little weaker, although I love playing this card in Commander. It's so sweet just stealing people's stuff. I just like stealing stuff. That's fun. And then, of course, Flame Rift. This is a very good, 2 mana, 4 damage. And obviously, it's to each player, so in the mirror, it can be a little wonky. But overall, still a very, very powerful card. And again, still sees a lot of play and Legacy Burn. And then sometimes other decks, too. But yeah, there's just so many good cards. Again, obviously, Food Chain and Squee are a little bit stronger, and then Flame Rift is about, like, maybe a little bit above average power level for like a common, monocolor common, but yeah, that's okay. Still really good stuff. A lot of fun combo enablers that we can do with here. Food Chain mostly. Okay, I know this is what you were thinking about. I'm sure you're all just screaming at your monitor. Ugh, you idiot! Prophecy. Look, okay, Prophecy is garbage. It's one of the worst sets ever, right? Like, I mean, this thing had some of the worst mechanics ever, like the untapped land mechanic, which absolutely got neutered with the removal of mana burn. I think so, I remember actually someone playing a Citadel Pain against me when I first started playing Magic, but like I don't think it even did anything. Like I don't even think I took any damage from it. Very depressing. Very depressing. Um, yeah. And then the Ristic mechanic, which is just so bad. I mean, I guess there's Ristic Tutor, which is kind of good in some ways, sort of, if they're tapped out, obviously, since like a 3-mana Demonic Tutor. Just not too bad, I guess, but oh god. But yeah, Ristic Study is probably the only one. That's just because it's in Commander, where it just draws you a billion cards. But it also annoys everyone, and then you have to check to make sure if they like casted a spell. Like I actually actively don't play this card because it's just like I can't keep track of what every single person is doing. And like, if people are, I mean, everyone's playing fast and loose or whatever. So like if other people are taking their turn and like someone's just tutoring and then casting, I mean, it's just too much, to try and deal with. And it's just annoying. And I don't really care about being annoying for other people in as much as more annoying for me. But anyways, Ristic Study is a very powerful card, and I think it's like the most expensive card in the set. I mean, I think there was probably maybe a couple other cards that saw play from Prophecy, but even the ones I have here, like Rebel Informer, this is a sideboard card in the Rebel stack that they couldn't cast. They just, they tutored it up. And it was against the mirror, obviously. But God, yeah, that obviously is a bad card. Magetta at least is cool. At least it can do cool stuff. A little bit underpowered, but it is a wrath on a stick with a body, and it's cool too. I like that. Um, so that's something. Has something. Abolish and Aura Fracture. Uh, Again, these are sweet cards. I played them a lot of like enchantment heavy decks before, like Enchantress or Parfait or whatnot. Um, just because a lot of those decks, like especially if you have land tax out, Abolish is free, which is great. So it's probably the only good free spell. Oh no, wait, that's right. Here we go. There's Foil over there, which is pretty good. Probably better than Thwart in some decks. I mean, Thwart and Foil oftentimes you play in stuff like Stasis or whatever. Like in pre-modern, they'd see play. But yeah, not really so much anymore. Avatar Voe was a really popular casual card back in the day, especially in multiplayer when you played it for free and just started nuking stuff all over the place. That was pretty sweet. It's got really iconic arcade post art. But yeah, this is probably the only good Avatar because it was easy to get out. Because obviously Black likes to kill creatures. Chimeric Idol, again, this is a sweet card back in the day, mostly in Type 2 though. It was great against, Wrath effects, where you'd be able to, just tap all your lands or whatever, because whatever, you just play stuff. And then you wouldn't have any lands to tap, and then you turn into a 3/3 and beat down, then it turns back into an artifact. So that's pretty good. Then you have Spore Frog. This is was good with Genesis, and I think that's probably the only place it saw play was like a lot of times in the survival decks where you could frog lock people. There was a lot of times back in the day in Legacy where you'd frog lock people too. That was kind of funny. What a sweet card. Look how happy he is. And then last but not least, Spiketail Hatchling. Played this a lot in a lot of fish style decks. It's basically a force spike on a stick you can beat down with, and it makes people play worse. They have to, play their, well, they can't, they obviously don't tap out to play spells against it. So it's really great, and then you can daze them still, and it's good with Wasteland and all that other stuff. That was pretty fun. Oh man, it felt good to play it with like this in play, and then like have a daze in hand and have a standstill in play, and just beating down with this and your Mistress Factory, and then to play a spell, and then you just daze them, and it's like, oh, it doesn't even matter, everything's good. But yeah, that's it. That's probably it for playable cards. I mean, some of these cards are just have not aged well. I can see playing Abolish and maybe Aura Fracture, but Aura Fracture is like a really narrow sideboard card, and Abolish really wants you to play a bunch of planes. Yeah. So, yeah, Prophecy is probably up there with one of the worst sets ever. The block as a whole is pretty insane power level. Prophecy was what really tanked it, and I think that's what people, when they think of Masques Blocks, oftentimes just think of Prophecy, which is garbage. Like, it's really really bad. And you had the Wind Cycle. They were like 1,000,000 mana. They were just so bad. It was just really really bad. Mechanics were bad. The Rhystic stuff, well, that's a mechanic. It was bad, but it bears repeating. The creatures were bad. I mean, it's just, I don't know. And I can't forgive them for Prophecy being so bad. Like, if you look at Homelands, it's like, okay, only a couple years after the game came out. I mean, whatever. At least it had Merchant Scroll, right? That card's broken. Um, but yeah, that's kind of it, though. Like, uh, it's they should have known by the time Prophecy came around, at least to. I mean, I don't understand like how. Yeah, this is. I mean, a lot like these rank up there with some of the mechanics from Kamigawa Block, like some of the really bad ones, like like the hand size matters stuff. Oof, oof, that was bad. Ooh, oh, that puts a bad taste in my mouth just remembering that block. At least Kamigawa Block draft was really good. Yeah, you can't really say that about. Well, actually, I've never played Mass Block Draft, but Prophecy's garbage. Gotta be one of the worst sets. If it's just sets, I mean, you could make this like, okay, Fallen Empires and Homelands really really bad, but it's just beginning of the game, 1 or 2 years after the game came out, so whatever. They're still learning. Prophecy, they should have known better, especially since the set after this was Invasion, which was absolute gangbusters. I mean, Invasion block is probably one of the best blocks in the game, and just one of the most powerful, like, at least at the time, is very, very powerful Invasion block. Um, but yeah, it was balanced. It was really, really balanced, really, really fun. Yeah, we didn't get that with Prophecy. It's really bad. I don't even know how to tell you, but I mean, this is Mass Block. Like, the fun level is all over the place, and if anyone's having fun, it's only you and not your opponent. And most of the creatures are pretty bad, except some of them when they weren't. Like, how was Blastoderm a common? Like, What a I mean, that even now I'm still thinking like, how is that a common? That doesn't make any sense. He's coming for your balls. Oh wow. Maybe that's how he stays alive. He eats balls. Anyways, yeah, all sorts of weird stuff. I mean, just absolute like slowing the game down, making the game take forever. Unfun cards, even though they're really powerful cards. All the games played out the same because your opponent just started with a Ramosian Sergeant on turn one. I mean, yeah, and then the free spells. God forbid the free spells, which were huge issues in older formats, caused a lot of problems. So yeah, so that's it. So is Mercadian Masques Block the worst set of all time, or the worst block of all time? Probably not. I would say I would say Champions is really bad. Champions is really bad for having like just some really bad mechanics. I think there was way more powerful cards in obviously in Masques Block by far versus like basically uh, GT and Top. Really, I mean I guess Gifts and Given is really good, pretty good, a really good vintage, but yeah, I think Masques Block has more powerful cards overall. But yeah, a lot of the creatures are pretty bad too in Champions Block. So it's hard to say. So let's review. Some really broken cards, but they're absolutely unfun to play. Some really good mechanics, like Rebels, but they're absolutely unfun to play. They're tutors on a stick, which is, again, stuff like survival, things like that, tend to be super broken. Um, Lots of mana now, makes the game slow down. People hate getting their lands destroyed. They reprinted Winter Warp in blue. Um, yeah, maybe not. And then of course they have all the typical fun broken cards that they print. Like here's Dark Ritual and Brainstorm and stuff or whatever. Have fun. Here's Counterspell. So overall the power level is way higher. But a lot of the powerful cards are unfun or have always caused problems like Dark Ritual. I mean, I don't even need to go into Dark Ritual. Um, yeah, so is it the worst block? Well, it was pretty unfun, so it's bad there. Is it a weak block? Not by a long shot. It's Prophecy does put a pretty bad taste in my mouth, though. Wow, that's really bad. But the strength of the first two blocks and all the different decks they enabled and all the different combo cards and things like that certainly, I think, made up for it. So, yeah. Yeah, so that's it. I think I'm done. I think I'm done. I'm freaking, oh, gosh dang. That's a lot to talk about. I mean, I could go on forever, but I think I hit most of the major stuff. I think I hit every single good card. I talked about Thwart a little bit. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it pretty much hit most everything that was really good. Yeah, so that's Masques Block for you. What an absolute mess. The game was pretty fucked up at that time. So you got Urza's Block fucked up, then you have Masques Block fucked up, and they fucked up in both different ways. Weak wasn't one of them. Obviously, the power level was pretty through the roof through a lot of these cards. Thank God Invasion Block, which was powerful block, but it was fun. It was everyone loved multicolor stuff, and everything just sort of worked out right. Next couple sets did a really good job, minus Tog sort of taking over every single format. Um, Other than that, everything started looking up basically until Mirrodin, which that went tits up, but that's a different story for a different day. I won't talk about that. So this is what from my own experience, what I've looked at, what I've seen other people say, um, and just all obviously looking through all the cards and stuff. I think there's a couple I didn't even remember. I was like, oh yeah, Crash is a card. I forgot about that guy and stuff like that. But yeah, obviously I'm like, oh yeah, this set had Brainstorm and Gush and Counterspell and Rashid Import and whatever. So that's Masques Block. And that's it. I'm actually going. I'm done now. So that's me. That's it, guys. So thank you for stopping by, and have a great day.